Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of The Power of Storytelling. Today we have Travis Alla on with us. Travis is a father, entrepreneur, business owner, and business coach. If you guys do enjoy this conversation we have today, make sure to leave a like and a follow on whatever platform you're listening on. Let's get into the conversation.
Yeah, so what's fun about where I'm at right now is I get to take a lot of mentorship and leadership I've gotten from people in my lives in the past that helped mold me to where I'm at and show me possibility, whether it was as a father or as a coach or in business in general. And I've gotten to live out a lot of the lessons learned, and I'm getting lots of chances and opportunities to pour that back into others, right? So,
Mm.
and that's of all ages and of all walks of life. I've had a very colorful and broad life that have a lot of relatability to different audiences, and being able to pour that back in what's worked for me and also pour that into my companies where I really focus on my purpose. I feel is as a business coach and helping other entrepreneurs and small business owners, I'm able to take core values and systems and training that has been successful in my businesses and go out across the country and impact culture in other businesses and other environments that maybe not be aren't flourishing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Aren't as positive as the ones I've been able to be part of or develop myself. And when you're able to do that, it you can make a bigger impact in the community than you could doing almost any other thing. I've been a cop, I've been military, I've done a lot of things that are deemed as service and serving the public, and the value that we're able to exponentially give to communities the way we're doing it is night and day difference to what I ever could have done in those previous careers.
For sure. What would you say that let's say someone is trying to get into this field as well. They have a lot of experience and knowledge. What has allowed you to help more people than you normally would? Is it through like social media or is it through like groups? What would you say?
Social media for me has been kind of an afterthought. So it definitely has its place, but I would say what's been huge for me has just been relationships.
For sure.
I have done everything I've done in life. I owe to relationships, whether that's a relationship with God or it's a relationship with my alignments and my circles.
Mhm.
I make sure to nurture relationships with peers, with mentors, with my team, all the above. Nothing. There's no better currency in life, I feel, than the relationships that you grow. Everything comes by way of that. That's how the universe, God, whatever you believe in, that's how that is all aligned to be fruitful for you. And that's also a good integrity check and character check for us is the relationships we have and what we do with them, right? Because once you start getting into building business and being an entrepreneur, money comes with that,
For sure.
and that doesn't change who you are. It only magnifies it, right? So if you're a piece of dirt, then it's going to make you worse unless you're conscious of how you're stewarding those treasures. Like the relationships will either flourish and grow more, or they'll turn into burned bridges left and right, and you'll find yourself stagnating on an island by yourself really quick.
For
So for
sure.
me, it's definitely relationships.
That's awesome, man. I love that so much because, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of times that you see people don't treat other people as people, but they treat them more as like transactions, and they think like, oh, I just have to get to this money or whatever it is. But for me, my previous experiences, that's the opposite. Like it's not gonna help you any more than actually treating people like humans and building those relationships. What do you feel like has helped you build relationships like or like deeper relationships rather than just trying to get to the money? Do you think it's just that mentality or are there other things that you do to nurture these relationships?
Yeah. So you said it, and to put a finer point on what you said, that's important for your listeners to catch is being relational versus transactional,
For sure.
right? You look at everything as a transaction, and when you get that transaction, whether it's emotionally in your relationship or it's financially in your business, whatever that transaction is, a lot of people once they get it, they're like, okay, mission accomplished, I've achieved it, right? And then they stop thinking about that person or that customer or whatever it may be.
Wow.
Thinking relational, it's it's along the lines of what can you give back, right? Or what do you need to give for what you've earned, right? So uh, one way I've coached a lot of business owners, whether it's going out to your community, thinking business to business, or even relationships, right? Intimate relationships, whatever it may be, they all live off this rule of being relational versus transactional. And you have to give as much as you can before you expect anything in return. And really, you can't expect anything in return. But before that relationship becomes fruitful for you, you have to give, right? So it's akin to going to the bank and opening a bank account and saying, "Hey, I would like to open a bank account with you today." Cool, easy conversation, right? Like I would like to open that. Here you go, paperwork signed, and I have a bank account,
Yep.
right? Now, if I go from the relationship manager of the bank to the teller and say, "Hey, I now have a bank account with you. I would like to withdraw $50,000."
Mm-hmm.
The teller is going to be like, "Okay, cool. Let's go look at what you put into this account.
Right.
You have $1,000 in this account. I can't give you 50 grand." "Oh, no, 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 no. But I need that.
Yeah.
I need that. And I'm expecting you to give that to me." "Well, but you've only put in $1,000, sir." So like that's going to be a really easy cut and dry conversation, right? Now, and I'll use this analogy because most people can understand the concept of money and going to a bank and whatnot. But where they get really confused and don't understand is all relationships are the same way, right? If I go and I take a woman out to dinner, right, and I say, "Cool, I'm taking you out to dinner tonight. I want to take you home and let's get married, have a kid," right? So what are you talking about? I just
Right.
met you.
Yep.
Yeah, but this is what I need, right? Well, how much value have I put into this relationship? Like, how
Right.
much investment have I put into this relationship? So if you start looking at life different versus instead of looking at what can I gain out of it, it's what do I have to contribute, right? So if you meet somebody on the street, if you go on a date, you have a new business opportunity. If you look at it from what can I bring to the table here, and you maximize that, right? So I can bring this investment, I can bring this value, whether it's time, it's treasure, it's my talent, whatever that may be. What can I bring to the table? And that's it. You don't look at what you can get in return.
Yep.
You don't look at what that person can bring to the table. You look at what can I bring to the table in this relationship, and then you maximize that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You invest all you have into that, and you just try to do right by your investment into that relationship. I promise you it's going to be fruitful. I promise you it's going to come back tenfold. The universe, God, everybody's going to take care of you in that because you're doing your best to show up for that relationship. And whatever comes out of it, let it be, right?
Right.
So don't have expectations of, well, I thought it would produce me this, because you're producing limited beliefs and then expectations, and through that comes entitlements, and then that just messes everything up.
Right.
But if you go around giving everybody what they want, eventually you'll get what you want, right? And I believe it was Zig Ziglar that coined that. But that is the ultimate concept of being relational versus transactional, and making sure you're not cutting your nose off to spite your face or stepping over a dollar to pick up a penny, right? We can go down all the quotes and comments and wallpapers that you see out there that wrap this up in a pretty bow and fun to say, but the actual actions are what matters, right? The words are great, but the actions are what really matter in life.
For sure. I feel like you can always see a lot from a person based off their actions, not just what they say, but more about what they do and actually how they live their life versus, oh, I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna do that for you. I'm gonna work 100%. But if you don't see it, one, that's obviously showing them that they're not a man of their word. But two, if they're just not doing what you said, if they're not investing into a relationship, then you obviously know that. Kind of speaking on that, what are some, I know that you're building your team right now, and I think that's a huge part of entrepreneurship is building that team around you. What are some characteristics that you look for in whenever either bringing people onto your team or looking at a group to get into? What are some of those characteristics that you want to see?
Character, right? So that is found by way of core values, principles, key characteristics, right? Let's be real. Nowadays, first off, when you interview somebody, you're always getting their best version, right? Whether it's a date or it's a job interview. And with the internet and AI and everything, all the tools out there, we can make a really nice resume. Anybody that comes to me comes on my team. Most of the time, it comes by way of relationships, right? So if you weren't referred to me, you're on the next category in the first place, right?
For sure.
I don't I don't find too many applicants by way of Indeed or any
Hmm.
job posting sites. I do it by way of relationship. I do it by way of impact. So whether it's a social media post or something somebody saw, I actually have people like we have a mutual friend actually that just came to work with me. He came to work with me by way of relationship, by
For
way of
sure.
watching me grow over the past several years, right? What we've built. That's how I ideally like to recruit is that people that are drawn to the cause.
Yep.
But then once they're in, like somebody will sit in front of us and they'll hand me a resume and I will literally close it. I'll put it aside. I don't read it. I don't
Yep.
care. I don't care what is on paper. I'm going to turn right around and ask questions like, what are your core values?
For sure.
If you don't have it, cool. Instead, just tell me what you value in general,
Yep.
right? And you go down enough of these trails of trying to figure out what matters to people, what they care about. Um, you find out, are they a good fit, right? Because if you're trying to build off culture, then all these things matter.
Right.
Uh, 9 times out of 10, if I sit you down, one of the first things you start talking to me is, what does this job pay? I'm going to
Hmm.
tell you right off the bat, like, honestly, I can get into that question, but the fact that you're there within 5 or 10 minutes tells me this probably isn't a good fit, because if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for a paycheck, it's not what we provide, right?
Right.
That's not something we hold back from people. Obviously, we're competitive. We make sure people have a way to make money. Otherwise, I wouldn't have long standing leadership on my team. But if that is your driven force, then again, we're back to being transactional versus relational, right?
Right.
Those are definitely key things that I look for is how does a person handle themselves? And then they're always on a trial basis with me, right? Because I want to see is what we carry important to us duplicatable into this person. Can they are they coachable, right? That's the number one trait is, are you coachable? And can you do the things that are important to me and my team the way we and those that follow us and trust us expect, right? So like something I always lead by is um, is Micah 6:8. So I might apologize for my faith. I lead on this. I'm a very kingdom businessman. So
For sure.
to me, Micah 6:8 translates to doing what's right, loving people, and working humbly. I'll put those in our mission statement. And if you can't do those things, you won't last on our team past 60 days. We'll see it, right? Those actions will come forth.
Right.
Um, those are three main traits that you won't see on paper, but that I look for in people. Like, are they humble? You know, do they love on people? Do they care about people? And do they do what's right? Just that simple. If you don't, then you've got a limited run at being on my team.
That's awesome. And yeah, I love that you say that because a lot of people don't, they come to a job or they come somewhere and they're building out their resume, but that's all they have. I've talked to a lot of people, and whether it was trying to bring someone onto my team or even into, like, let's say like a friend group or a group of people that you want to be around you in your life in general, they tell you the things that they've done, but the more that you talk to them, you realize that that's all they have behind them. They don't have those core values. What would you say is, like, I know I've looked at a lot of your stuff, and I've done a lot of my research in a sense. I've obviously known you for a while and kind of I've watched you. You have a group of men around you, or a group of people around you, that you guys all have the same mindset, or it seems like you guys are all striving toward the same goal, even though you guys may not be in the same exact, like, business or industry. It seems like you guys all have the same, mindset and core values. Do you think that that's beneficial, and how did you get to become in a group like that? Was it something that you've built, or was it something that met with a few people and it just kind of grew?
Sure. Yeah, so that's definitely been huge for me because I've been what you just spoke of, right? I've been that person that um, cared about the accolades, cared
Mm.
about the accomplishments in my resume. When I was a cop and SWAT, hostage rescue, all that stuff, my resume was a mile long.
For sure.
And I had some tragic events give me perspective on what's important in life and what's not. And in that pivot, I definitely started seeking like-minded individuals. And when I say like-minded individuals, like, you have to figure out what is it you want in life, and then who bears that kind of fruit, right?
Right.
So if these are the things you want, then who do I know that does that,
Mhm.
right? And then let's also reverse that onto the people that I'm following, the people that I'm around. What is the fruit in their lives, right? So as a cop, for example, I was around a bunch of other detectives, a bunch of other SWAT guys, right? And what did most of them do? Had a high divorce rate. We were out drinking every other night, right? We were at the shooting range, all those kinds of things. But the fruit of their life was divorce, was stress, was financial issues, alcoholism, you name it. And then I would wonder why I would run into these issues,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what I'm putting myself around, right? So pivoting that, you'll find me now in a circle of people that are strong men, right? That are
Mhm.
striving for growth on a regular daily basis, that have grit, that are great fathers, that are great business owners. And fortunately, I find myself in that circle now, but it took me a while to get there. It took me a while of saying, this is where I want to be. And I have to be relentless on the pursuit of being in a circle like that. Fortunately, over that time frame that I'm talking in that delta there was a relationship with God that I found, and that made it a little easier to find people like that because all of it came down to a boiled reason of purpose that we were all seeking,
Right.
right? So when you're all headed the right same direction, you're all looking at the same lighthouse, boats start corralling in the same harbor, right? And then once you end up in that harbor, you can start finding like-minded people, right? So to me, finding that beacon, that lighthouse, that purpose, and what is it that I'm going to strive after in this life was number one. And then once you start heading that direction, then you start realizing, okay, well, I have an alignment with this person, alignment with that person. And that's really what's key is the alignment before the assignment, right? Most of us are going through our life focusing on the assignment. What am I going to do out of college? What am I going to do? Am I going to join the military? Am I going to go for sports? Do I want to be an NFL athlete? Whatever, right? We're focusing on the assignment. We're completely ignoring the alignment.
Right.
And then when we get there, it's like, oh, I got the accolade, I got the assignment, but who's with me?
Yep.
I'm with a bunch of geniuses that I really don't want to be part of,
Yep.
right? But hey, I got this trophy. And guess what it means? Nothing. It
Nothing.
means absolutely nothing,
You have
right? Like
no fulfillment.
one of my best friends and mentors is Steve Weatherford, right? He's got a story out there that, he was a Super Bowl champ. And when he achieved that, he was the emptiest he's ever been, right? So I've been to the top and the bottom. I know everything in between, but the alignment is what's important. Said a different way, is you always focus on the who before the what, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm going to go to school, cool, fine. It's what's the design? Is it a surgeon? Is it a doctor? Whatever. That's fine, cool. That's the what. But the who would be is who am I going to impact with that,
Right.
right? How is that going to allow me to grow a family? And that family, what kind of core values is my family going to have? What's that going to look like? What's the legacy I'm going to leave? That's the who, right? So when you work that backwards and you engineer it on what's the destination, who do I want to be as a person, who do I want to be around, what are the alignments and the who's in that circle, then the what becomes very clear on how to obtain that.
Right.
If you work it backwards, then you may succeed in getting to the destination and look up, you're by yourself.
Right. That's awesome. And yeah, you're so you see that all the time. You know, people get to that accolade and they obtain that goal, but it wasn't within their alignment, within their purpose that they truly wanted. So they think that they're gonna get fulfillment out of it. But once they hit that goal, they have no fulfillment. And it almost just makes you even worse off because you know this is the goal you were chasing this whole time. But since you weren't looking toward your alignment, if you weren't looking toward the true values that you have, and if it didn't align, you've now reached that goal that you thought was going to bring you that true happiness, that true fulfillment, and you just got it, but now you don't get that fulfillment, you know? I love that you say that because I feel like so many people, I mean, I fall victim to this as well, as we look for those accolades, we look for those goals, but we don't think about why we're doing it. You know, we don't think about who we're impacting. We don't think about who we want to become as a person. We just are trying to look for like, I want to become this because it's going to allow others to look at me in a certain light. And in reality, a lot of people don't realize that doesn't bring you any fulfillment, you know?
You're always chasing validity, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing about what you just said is most of that is driven by a void, right?
Right.
It's driven by we're seeking validation, we're seeking approval, whether it was a father wound when we were kids or being bullied in school or whatnot. We just wanted to be popular or cool or whatever. We keep chasing the thing that's going to give us that, but it doesn't, right? We keep thinking that this is going to fill the void, and all it does is make the hole bigger, right? And even if you do find something that's like a drop in the bucket, you still got cracks and everything to fill around it. So yeah, culture, our culture, our society really feeds into that a bit, right? Like everybody tries to make it about here's what success looks like, right? Here's what success is, and none of that can be defined by anybody but yourself,
Right.
right? It's not feasible. And if you try to fill the void and the gap with what somebody else defines as success, and so if somebody else designs as fruit in their life, you'll forever be void of that because it's somebody else's design.
Right.
You hear these in your thoughts. You hear these things of I want to play in the NFL. I want to do this. I want to do whatever. Those are your dreams that you work on. When you let somebody else come in there and start molding that for you, if you're successful and you achieve that, you're not even achieving their dream, right? Like
Right.
that's where things come where parents live vicariously through their kids,
Yep.
and they set the expectation without their kids actually knowing what they want to do. What is it I want to do? What makes me happy, right?
Right.
And that's what sent culture down the path that it is right now. We've got so much confusion out there because everybody's trying to live to everybody else's standard without realizing what their own is. So then they get to the end and they're like, well, I don't even know what I want. So I'm just
Right.
going to be completely a mess and decide I don't even know what if I'm a male or female.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that I love that you just said that, because you said, you know, if you let someone else impact what you truly want to do, you're now not achieving your dream. You're achieving someone else's dream. And you're always going to be searching for that validation. You're always going to be searching for that fulfillment. And eventually you're going to get there and you don't have that fulfillment. You don't have that validation, and you're wondering why, you know, I thought this is what I wanted. And then you get it and you don't want it, and now you're just in a huge mess. So always looking for that alignment within yourself, not from anyone else. I think that's a great message, and I really do appreciate you sharing that as well. Let's switch it up.
Before you pivot, hold that. I want to give you some that I think is as a fun exercise for some people. A lot of us are old enough to remember arcade games, and actually they're making a bounce back, right? So there's all these arcade hubs, you know, and bars or whatever setting up. It's kind of fun to see, but what everybody else is doing and what the accolades and the success stories that we see out there, I feel like it's like an arcade game, right? It's a if you were to go to an arcade and start playing a bunch of games, you play 10 games, there may only be one or two that you really enjoy, right? And then when we find out those one or two you enjoy, like that's your passion, that's your gift, whatever it might be, you're finding it in that game, and you could just throw away the other eight, right? So like that's kind of like finding your purpose in life, I feel. But once you get on that arcade game and you play a couple levels, when you end, you don't beat the boss, you die, whatever it might be, what do you meet at the end, right? You meet the scoreboard, right? And we all see that your name, you put in 3 initials or whatever it might be, and it starts to go into your ranking of like 131st place, right? Well, you thought you were doing really good, but then you see the top 3, and you're like, whoa, I mean, that creates possibility for me, right? Then you spend the rest of the money you have or whatnot trying to achieve that top score. And I feel like once you figure out the lane you want to be in, you find the people that have gotten that top score, and that just creates possibility for you. You're not trying to do it their way or whatnot. It just creates possibility of, okay, so this is what I could do. You have to wrestle with yourself where in that line you want to fall. Do you want to be 131st? Do you want to be second? Do you want to be first, fifth, whatever? You can't compare yourself to the person. You just have to look at the number and realize that's possibility, and then you go set out to achieve it. Because at the end of the day, what you're really focusing on is that dash on your tombstone between start to finish. And what did you accomplish there? And then you become the possibility for the next people coming behind you, whether it's your legacy, your kids, or whatnot. They get to see what you've done, and they get to be inspired in an aspect of you creating possibility while they go find their own dream.
That's awesome, man. I love that so much. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a huge thing for people to think about. You know, I like to think of that analogy as well. And then even thinking about, you know, while you're playing that video game and you find a passion within this video game, you don't need to look around and see what other people are playing. You know, you don't need to look around and see, you know, oh, there's more people watching this person playing this video game. You know, worry about what you enjoy, worry about what you want to do, and then go try to be the best at that. Or even if you don't want to necessarily be the best, go try and do what you want to within that video game or within that area. I think that's a great thing for people to think about. Switching up a little bit here, I like to see what would say about this and some of your input. For someone that is doing so much and moving around, I know that you're talking about traveling a lot and all this. For a lot of people, they would be dead tired. You know, they wouldn't have energy, they wouldn't have the motivation. What are some things that you do physically and even mentally that allow you to stay energized, to stay motivated, and kind of keep going?
Sure. So first and foremost, I love when people tell me I'm just tired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I had a mentor tell me a while back, and this thing has stuck with me, and I brand it in my brain. There's no such thing as being tired. You're just uninspired.
Right.
So if you're tired of doing what you're doing, it's because you need to be doing something else. Whether that's your job, whether that's your workout routine, it's time to switch it up. You're just uninspired. Otherwise, tired doesn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could now maybe you need rest. That's a completely different
For
conversation,
sure. Yeah.
right? When it comes to being tired, most people are just uninspired and they've hit that ceiling and they're just on a hamster wheel. Right. So some things that I've done to help me with that is, I set non-negotiables. Right. So when we talk about like physically tired and things like that, I make sure I make time for rest. Like even God himself needed rest, right?
Right.
On the set. So we're definitely not God. So we need rest even more. Um, the things that I'll do is I'll time block my schedule. I have an assistant that, essentially I call her my babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mess with my schedule. I'll look at it. If you were to call me, I don't care if you're my best friend, you're going to say, hey, let's do dinner on Thursday. And say, cool, here's the link. Go check my schedule and book it, because I'm going to forget to tell my assistant. She's going to book me with whatever. So knowing where I am strong and where I'm not, fill those gaps. And the biggest thing that I do in my life is, what are my non-negotiables, right? Well, my physical health is non-negotiable, not only for myself to have good quality of life, but to have a long life and to be here for my daughter, right? So in order to do that, my diet's got to matter, my sleep's got to matter, all of those things. And I take that to another level, right? Because the biggest thing that we have in this life to take care of is ourselves,
For
right?
sure.
No matter what you're doing, what you earn, what you make, what you achieve, if you're not here to enjoy it, it doesn't matter. So like I carry wearables that break down my biometrics. I do blood work. I do biohacking stuff, whether it's IVs, cryotherapy. I have a couple businesses in that space, so it makes it a little easier for me because I have access. But I went into that space because there's a passion of mine, right? It
Right.
aligned with who I was. So I am really good about my yeses and nos and making sure that whatever time I'm spending, it's on things that matter to me, matter to my family, matter to things down the road. And I'm not just wasting time on things that they just don't matter to me, right?
Right.
They don't fit in my purpose or what God has planned for me. So, and if I'm tired, if I'm exhausted, like, and I haven't always been this way in the past. When I was younger, it was grind, 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 grind. And now it's about grace, right? There's no such thing as work-life balance. Anybody's listening to this, it doesn't exist. We talk
Right.
about it all the time. I'll tell you, it doesn't exist. What happens is harmony, right? So when you figure out what's important to you, whether it's family, whether it's fun, work, all this, you have to figure out what level of those. Like some people just need to work 8 days a week, or they're not, or 8 hours a day or more, or they're not happy. No matter how they got billions in the account, doesn't matter. That it's just the drive they have, and they have to meet that. So whatever you find, the pillars of your life, whether it's financial, relational, spiritual, all these things, and then you figure out where you need them to be, and that creates the harmony, right? And as long as you're in harmony, you're good. But if you try to find balance, like these pillars are not going to be equal. You'll
Right.
be for changing something that doesn't exist. So for me, I figure out what that harmony is, how much time that I have to spend with my daughter, how much time do I have to spend with me in quiet time, how much time do I have to spend in prayer and in relationship with God, with my significant other, with my team. What kind of time is that? Is it how much is training? How much is one-on-one coaching? All these things, right? And then I block my schedule accordingly. And if it impedes my schedule, I don't do it.
Yep.
Just that simple. If I need to get up and travel and I know it's going to impede my health, I need more sleep. Guess what? The day before, the day after, it gets nixed in certain areas because I have to make sure that non-negotiable is taken care of. So you can't just go through firing from the hip, right? So those are things that I do as far as time blocking out the non-negotiables in the categories of life that I feel are important so that we create that harmony.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. So time management in a sense, and then that don't not necessarily worrying about the balance, but worrying about doing the things that align with your values and what you truly want to do, and then creating that harmony like you're talking about. That's amazing. Well, I do want to say I do appreciate you for being here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I do have one more question, and this will kind of be the one that we can end it on. Um, just for anyone out there looking, listening to your story, for anyone out there, that is in a spot in their life that they feel like is either rock bottom or they feel like they're in a hole that they'll never get out of. What is that one thing that you would say to them to really help them?
Um, the one thing I would say to them to really help them if they felt they were in rock bottom.
They felt like they're never getting out. They feel like life is over in a sense.
The one thing I would say to them is, you're right. If you feel that that's where you're at, then you're right.
Wow.
Good news is, if you choose to not think that, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's coming from somebody I've been on the highs, right? I've been officer, detective of the year. I've had all the accolades, and I've found myself overnight as public enemy number one, broadcasted all over the news, and murder, all these things, right? And trust me, I've been down those. I've battled thoughts of suicide. I've battled worthiness. Been in some pretty deep, dark spots. And when I thought that that's what I deserved, guess what? I was right. When I thought that that's not who I was, and that God sees me a different way, or whatnot, I was right. So for anybody that's in that spot, I would tell you, you have the power to get out of it. You can't do it alone. That's definitely something I would throw out there. Nobody can do it alone. I will tell anybody that's aspiring, I'd make jokes about this all the time. I call people out on stage for things like this. There's no such thing as self-made.
True.
Anybody that says I'm self-made is just telling you that they're selfish, because they don't want to give credit or accountability to anybody else. Whether it's the way your parents raised you, whether it was a mentor, a teacher, a coach, a book, something along the way has gotten you to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So know that, and know that no matter how successful the person, they didn't do it alone. So don't be afraid to ask for help if you find yourself in those deep, dark spots. But you're 100% right if you think that you're at rock bottom, and just know it. And then decide, now that I know where I'm at, I'm aware of it. What you're aware about, you can care about. So now it's time to, where do I want to be? And
Right.
then how do I get there? And don't try to do it alone. Go figure out where you want to be and find somebody that's there, and then go be a student, be coachable, go ask for help, but then listen to the help. Don't question the help, because you're where you're at, and you go ask somebody, you're there to follow. So hopefully that serves your question there.
Yeah, for sure. That's powerful, man. Well, I do thank you so much, Travis. Thank you for being on, and thank you for talking and sharing your story, man. I appreciate it, and we'll be talking again soon.
Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate y'all.